Tapping, tap into your purpose. Tapping, check it out. They act as if we see no, hear no, speak no evil. They act as if we see no, hear no, speak no evil. We tapping into purpose. Raw purpose. Raw purpose. We tapping into purpose. Raw purpose. Raw purpose.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy Zay.
And it's your boy Rashad.
And this is the Raw on Purpose podcast.
The Raw on Purpose podcast. We back. We ain't gonna go through a big intro, but we still are the Raw on Purpose podcast. Y'all know the podcast. We tapping into your raw, authentic self, your divine purpose, and we about to bring it back.
Yep.
With a great conversation and keep this flame going amongst these amazing men about this time about what?
Fatherhood. We're diving deep. We just finished talking about husbandhood. Now we're going to dive into fatherhood. And you guys know where to find us. Raw on Purpose. Just look it up. You can find us on all those things. We don't even want to waste time getting into this information because it's very important, right? We talked about how important it is as husbands, how we are to live our lives. But what I think sometimes is more important is how are we as fathers. You'll hear me quote my pastor a lot because I'm around him a lot. Just by the nature of what I do, I'm around him a lot. So he always says that your children are God's letter written to the future. So everything that you instill in them will show what kind of person you were and what you poured into them 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So it's important as fathers. And I said this in the first episode. I'm going to say it again. There's a lie that says black men are not in the households. It's a lie. We are actually the most present group in our children's lives, right? We're the ones that honestly stay married longer from what statistics say. It's typically divorces are led by 80% by women, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not us that try to get out of this thing. It's oftentimes the woman, right? So men, especially black men, we're not like what they're trying to say. We're not out here sleeping, cheating, and all that stuff. There are a lot of great
black
men
don't cheat,
right? Right. No matter what Nick Cannon says, right. Monogamy is what did he say? It was like
he said a whole lot of stuff.
Right, he said it was stupid or something. I forgot. It was just asinine. I was like, really? It's a waste of time. Anyways, so we're gonna dive into fatherhood. Why is it important? What foundation it sets, and how it ties into even being a husband, right? Because how you treat your wife sets the standard for how your children will be treated by their spouse. So again, we're joined by Mike and Wes. So we're just going to dive into it. So we're all fathers here, right? It's one that we're all fathers in different phases, right? I have a 10-month-old. Wes has 3 from under the age of 3. Mike has from 3 adults, right? And then Rashad got him a teenager that's almost adult, right? Mm-hmm. And it's crazy watching him grow, right, from where he was when we met to where he is now. So we're able to give so many different distinct understanding of fatherhood. Like what does it look like? How does it how do we do it? Right? So one thing I want to dive really into is first this whole concept of how children spell money, right? Many times us as fathers, we get lost in the provision, right? We tend to work so hard to give our kids things. And we don't understand that kids love for them isn't spelled Money. It's spelled Time. So how vital is it for you as a father to spend time with your children? So Mike, with you being, you've had a lot of practice in this. How important is that?
I'm gonna tell you, time is the most precious thing. It is the most precious thing that you can have with your children is that time. Because if I can take it back, because I worked a lot when they were younger, and I worked on Saturdays as well. So that time to spend with them as far as recreational things, it wasn't as present as I would liked it had been, but it just didn't work out like that. And that was something that it doesn't haunt me, but it makes me think about the time that I will spend with maybe possibly grandchildren when they come. Is that because that time is so precious because you can't get it back.
Yeah. And what's crazy is because I can relate to that. Like, so Mike's a mailman, right? My dad was as well. So I remember, like, me and my dad's quality time was going and cleaning the church, right? And he would go and get us ice, we would get ice cream, or it was just like my time to spend with him. And which I thank God it was going to the church and cleaning it and not like, tagging along, going to the bar or something, creating opposite habits. But, that was our time together was after Saturday, he gets off work and I'd be at home waiting. I'd run to the house after playing all day. Hey, we're going to clean the church, because it was just that time spent to where even, you hear a lot of people, one thing you'll never hear people say on their deathbed is like, man, I wish I worked more. They would always say, man, I wish I spent more time with the people I love. So that's key as a father to understand. And it goes back to what you said in the previous one, when you seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, all these things shall be added, that we don't have to chase the money. The money will chase us, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep, that's true.
When we align with him, the money will chase
Priority.
us. And it's tough to do because culture tells us is you got to have the flashy things that, this statement is, I got to give my kids what I didn't have. And it's like, so then you actually do what your parents do, right? And be away from them to provide, because we have this this idea. So I know for you it's different. You get to be like, you're present with your kids.
Yeah, but it wasn't my plan. It turned out like God did all of it, and it's beautiful. But I grew up, watching my mom go out, grind, and she would be out of town every week pretty much for like first 10 or 11 years of my life. So I spent a lot of times with my grandmother, because she lived like right down the road. So I had a lot of my cousins over there. So I spent a lot of time around my uncle and my grandparents and my cousins. My dad, he had a 9 to 5, and they were big. Like, what I kind of got from manhood or fatherhood was provision. That's the first thing I was kind of thinking of coming into marriage. I was like, okay, providing. Like, when we got the first, inkling that we were going to have a child, I was thinking, okay, money, provide. So me, I'm already, coming off of, traveling every week, for years and years. So I was like, I just stopped doing that, once I settled down and got married. But I was like, okay, well, now, I got to go back, blah, blah, blah. So I was thinking in my head, I'm actually thinking I'm going to be gone. And I'm thinking it's not that big of a problem, because it's my role is to provide. It just so happens that, this is important. This is why it's important to pay attention to God and the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, set things up. And so I'm blessed and fortunate to be able to work at home. Now, I don't make as much as I used to, which is funny because I have more responsibilities now. But God provides, man. God takes care of everything. And I wouldn't trade it at all. Just before I came here, like, I could have said, okay, I'm going to stay downstairs, get a little bit more work done. I'm going to go do this podcast. But by the time I would have got home, my kids would have been asleep. So instead of working and then coming to the podcast, I stopped working, went upstairs, chilled with them for an hour, ate some dinner, and then came here, But it's just those kinds of things, like you're saying, like money, work, all these things will just take care of themselves. It's all about like realizing the priorities and everything. But my initial idea was provision. I was provision, because that's what I saw my father do. You know what I mean? Like, so. I was going to be out traveling, so I probably would have been that person that, they would see every 3 months. You know what I mean? Because I would have been gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, bro, same for you. Like, spending time, I know, like, for you, you and your son's relationship is different due to living in two different spaces. How do you balance that with him?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just communication. Not just like, like, hey, how are you, son, and would you this, that, but like having like real open dialogue and conversation, like asking him like, how's he doing, what's going on, what he's dealing with, things of that nature, as far as like from a distance and whatnot. And whenever we come together, it's always just, we always have a great time because we're very much like close birthdays, all that type of stuff. Sometimes that could be a butt head too, but really, just as far as the balancing effect, yeah, we just have like, at least as far as me and him, we have just a really good understanding of he's understanding my lifestyles just as far as like my workload, things that I got to do, and we both value our time spent together when we do come together, and I make it about him, and he even consciously makes it about us. You know what I'm saying? When we do have that QT and everything as well, so I'm like grateful for that. That I don't have to like necessarily like tear any walls down or anything like that when we do come together, because we do supplementally have a relationship even when we're not, physically together and whatnot. So that's what I try to make sure is that we definitely have that connection, because, love has no boundaries, so even if, we can't necessarily be physically together as frequently, we still know, kind of like what you talking about, even in a relationship, like between, like, and your wife, like, that sync.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying? That love in sync. You know what I'm saying? That is there. So I'm grateful for that. So that's how I kind of balance that thing out.
I thought of a song when you said that.
I just thought of something.
I know.
You know what I thought of? Because we brought up the NSYNC, and I thought of the group, and I was like, I wonder if NSYNC could ever be out of sync when their name is NSYNC. I literally thought of that as you were saying it.
That's funny.
It's hilarious.
I thought of Bye Bye Bye.
Bye, bye. Did you really? Yeah.
Bye Bye Bye. So yeah, it's crazy. Like for myself, balancing, having a 10-month-old, and even now seeing how important time with her is, to where sometimes, like, even if I have stuff to do, I'll cut it short just to get home to see her face, and then to see that, like, that bright smile. What I like to do when I open the door is I like to call out her nickname, and if my dad or my wife has her, or my mom or somebody has her, she smiles, and now she's looking around trying to find me, and then I pop out, and then the smile just gets so big, and now she's getting to a point to where she reacts, and so it's like, it's so, it's so important to see that, to where it's like, like today, I'm not going to get to see her before she goes to sleep, right? So, it's like, man, like, now, I'll tell you, like, when I first found out I was going to be a father, right?
Yep.
Again, we were talking off air. These two guys are my my confidants, and so actually I called Rashad first, and then I called Wes.
I was at Kroger. I remember
that. And the first time, because my wife and I, we lost our first child, but the way she told me about the first one was like I walked in the door, and she's playing the episode of the Cosby Show when all the men were pregnant. Right, so I honestly I wasn't aware of it, but I walked in, I was making my snack before I went back to, get back to work, and I walk in, and my wife was like, recording me when I walked in the room, and I was like, bruh, stop recording me, like, stop. I was like, you know what, I'm walking back out, because I don't know what you're trying to do, and I wasn't paying attention to nothing else but that. So then I walk, and I'm using the restroom, washing my hands, and I'm like, I hear the episode, I was like, are you pregnant? She's like, no, I'm not. I said, right?
Yeah.
Sigh of relief. And then I walk in the room, and I look on the ottoman, and there's some shoes, a little letter to me, and I was just like, I was mad because I was like, bro, you lied to me, right? I got my hopes up that I'm not about to be, because I've been trying to avoid being a father as long as possible, honestly. Right?
Yeah.
Being candid.
Yeah, we just figured that out.
Right.
Right.
I was like, shoot, it was what, year 5 when she was born? So I was like, I was counting the calendar, like doing everything to try to. So when she said it, like, I was mad. So, like, that whole night while I was driving, I had to drop her off. She was going out of town anyways. And I'm sitting there like, man, I'm about to be a dad. Like, oh, my God. Like, and then, we lost her. And then, I felt kind of guilty because I was like, man, maybe it's my fault, right? Like, I had such a bad attitude when I found out about it. Maybe it was like, well, God, and God's not like that. I just want to put that out there. God's not like that. That's my own self,
Yeah,
right?
people
That's
in the
my own
comments.
self.
I know that's right.
right.
It's like, man, this was the most commented video we ever had.
Wow.
Like 18 different comments on there. He's exactly right. That's what he did to me. Like, that's not how I wanted this
That's
to
not
go.
right. It's not
Take
how
this
it
down.
works. But then once we had her, and then just allowing God to really work on my heart, right, and really just understand, like, especially now when she's moving, talking, all that stuff is so cute.
Yep.
To where now it's like I have to shift my day. If I know I have a long night, I stay at home longer just to play with her, spend some time with her. And half the time I get to the gym late now because she wakes up right before I'm about to leave, and I know I have a long day, so I try to play with her because there's no guarantee I'm gonna get home, because I understand, like, that the money's gonna come. Spend that time with her even now, because it develops a strong connection, right?
Consistency.
So,
I say consistency.
Yes.
It's important.
yeah. So it's like there's nothing like. I get what my dad said. There's nothing like coming home and seeing your children, especially when they're babies, right? Like, you could have the worst day at work, worst day out in life, and you come home and you see like that little smiling face, and it's like, oh my God, right? Like, I thank God for the moment. Like, it easily changes your heart. So, and ladies, this is why. Just to even take a moment to you, if you are a single mom and you are a mom that, because you may feel some bitterness towards the father, make sure you allow the father into the child's life, because that thing is so important. Not just for her, but for him. Because a lot of men take fatherhood seriously. A lot of men want to be fathers. It's just a lot of times he's okay being a father. He just don't want to deal with you, and you got to reconcile that within yourself, and maybe go fix whatever it is so that you guys can have that relationship. But it's important to actually, and that even segues into how important is it for you as a man to pick the proper person to father a child with,
That's crazy.
right?
Man.
Because that makes the difference in the child's life. Is being able to actually like the person that you've made this child with, because the kids can feel it too, right?
It ain't no. It's when they feel it, because they will feel it eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. And we go back to the Bible, because the Bible says, "Be not unequally yoked with unbelievers," and that's not an indictment on people that are not saved, but it makes your road easier if you come together under the confines of marriage. And when you think about that person being in your life, raising a child, and the same, things that you desire in your life and in your family, you want that to be, exhibited in your children. And that's the natural progression of marriage. You get married to have children. Because if you haven't sexual relations with your spouse, as spouses do, you're going to have children.
Right.
Naturally. It's like a given. So you want to make sure. I heard TDJ say one time he wished some of the women that he dated in his lifetime would have had their disposition posted on their T-shirt. Say, yes, I'm crazy and I'm going to take all your money.
All men
Proud
wish
of
that.
men. Well, we wish we had
Yeah.
T-shirts that displayed what these individuals that are coming into our life, potentially to make children with.
Yeah.
Because the same problems or situations that they may have encountered can be transferred to those children.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have to bear that weight.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
they shouldn't have to bear that weight. And I'm happy. I can see my kids now. They know Dad's getting home late, so we can do whatever we want until like 5:30, 6 o'clock. We got to get it together because Dad will be home.
Yeah.
So that it makes a big difference in who you're in a relationship with. It makes all the difference to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny.
I agree.
It's funny when you said that. When you're married and you do what married folks do, every person that when I went to the visits, like, what did you expect? you were doing what married people do. I was
Exactly.
like, you're right,
Exactly.
It's always that but.
but.
Yeah.
It's like, but I thought I could control it.
That,
Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is obviously, I mean, extremely important. And I think, we can't even say this without even just talking about the institution of marriage, because a lot of our issues stem from the fact that God is a God of order. We're very chaotic in how we live our lives, and we live in disorder a lot of times. I would say, like, even to women, a lot of times, because they'll say, well, there's no good men out here. They don't take care of the kids. And I was, sometimes I'll pose the question. I was like, man, when's the last time a woman was married to a man, had a child, and the man said, oh, I'm going to get divorced because we're having a child? If that happens, it would be extremely rare. But when you're not married, there's no like commitment in that way. You know what I mean? So you're already taking a huge chance. Because that person might give in to their fears, where it's going to be, when you're married, you're making that commitment. You're actually making that commitment. So generally speaking, there's not going to be that many guys, if any, that are going to just leave because, oh, we're pregnant, oh, I'm leaving. Yeah. But when you're not married, you're going to take a huge chance of that, because a lot of guys are like, yo, I got a bachelor life, I got, my money, I want to keep my money. So you're going to have, if you're going to take that road, then understand the consequences of that road. So not just finding a partner, but just doing it in the right order. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just being transparent. There was one time earlier in my life when I was young, and the baby, it was an abortion situation. It wasn't my choice, but if I'm being honest, at the time I didn't have an opinion on it. I was too young to even know really what it was. Yeah. Sometimes I kind of think about, like, man, what would have happened had that, gone that route. And then even with my child now, that was, my first child was slightly before. She came right after our marriage, but we were pregnant before, so it still was taking a chance. You know what I'm saying? Because, we had some close calls of not even, not making it. You know what I mean? So that right there, just doing it within the order that God created, that's huge. That's going to give you a little bit of a head up, But if you are going to kind of live reckless and do things outside of the order, which pretty much everybody has to some degree in some capacity, then that's the chance that we take, And yeah, I mean, there's more on that, but I'll leave it.
Yeah, that's huge. That's why, like, we talked about, like, God established an order for a reason. And that's why through the confines of marriage is what he decided to allow the seed to grow and become a human being, right? But because, we don't have the discipline before we get married to actively wait, right? And because we're in a hypersexualized culture right now to where it makes it difficult. But it's something that is necessary because, that discipline helps you first and foremost. When your spouse gets pregnant, you're not going to leave, right? Because you've been able to discipline yourself in your relationships and in your past relationships. So now it gives you that, all right, I'm disciplined in this area. Now it allows you to be open and disciplined in other areas so that you can now establish the right environment in the home. We had this conversation a few weeks ago that men set the tone or set the environment
for the atmosphere,
so that the mom the wife will set the atmosphere. So we set the environment, they set the atmosphere, right? So it's something like what you said, like, daddy's coming home at 5:30. That means daddy has created an environment of, this is where the house needs to be like this. Yep. It needs to be like this when I come home. And now the wife has set the atmosphere of, your daddy's coming home, right? So you understand, like, I got to get myself in order. I got to get things in order so that, daddy's not upset when he comes home. Not that he's going to come and abuse us, but it's like now he has to take time of, instead of, just loving on us. Now he has to chastise us in love, which now we don't get to experience the nice part of that because we didn't do what we said or what we were supposed to do. Right? I think about the times when it's like, hey, did you take out the chicken? Right? And put it in the water, and you hear the garage going up. You're like, oh, snap. And you run and try to do it. It's just like...
It's just pointless.
It's pointless. But in your head,
Yep.
right? But it helps you, like, understand when you grow, like, when you do things in order, right? So as we even discipline our child, right, how important is it that we do it correctly? Right? Not abuse our children, but why is it important that we do discipline them? What does that help them with in life?
Well, I mean, good.
Are you good? But I was just gonna say that it prepares them for the realness of life, even the realness of a relationship with God as well. Because of course they're gonna have to be out there and have their own relationship with God, and God does discipline us. Chastises, and he doesn't just answer every prayer like here you go, you want that, here you go, what I'm saying? It don't work like that. So we kind of have to set it up for them in a realistic way so that they're not surprised and have these entitlements and have these expectations of what they should have or who should treat them this way without doing this, and this, and being in this type of order, So it's that good correction that helps create a path or a good guideline that is setting themselves up from child, adolescent, teenage, into young adult, that they can already have a basis and a foundation of once they do become to, bigger ages of maturation and whatnot. So, and it, like they said, it spoils them and they become ungrateful for a lot of things. I was listening to a live, heard this guy say, I've never seen a child who has gotten everything, had everything the way they wanted, and grow up to be like a really good human being. So it's like you destroying your child by not carrying out that, that discipline, that correction, that, all that type of stuff, that's really, helping them to have a good gauge going into the real world,
Yeah. Yeah.
Discipline in my household it took many forms because I guess I was considered the heavy.
The heavy-handed one.
Yeah, and my wife was the one that talked, the one the kids referred to after I had my dealings with them. But I think discipline is necessary, absolutely necessary in any household because mainly as a Christian, there are so many things that our culture, that this world tries to portray the family as. And as the head of my household, I wanted to make sure that my children knew that family was sacred. Our marriage, my marriage to your mother is sacred. It's not just up for somebody to make their own opinions or their own judgments about what we should be doing. But when you have that love for family and God, it forces you to take serious the confines of your own family. If it's sacred, then what are you doing to make sure it remains sacred?
That part.
That's good.
Am I going to allow my children to just act any kind of way out? And God is not unseemly. He's not an author of confusion. He's not one where you disrespectful to your parents or you didn't obey.
Yeah.
That's the main thing for a Christian. As a Christian household, you have to have some, because to me, freedom is not what people consider freedom.
Right.
Some people say, well, I need to be free to do this, I need to be free to do that. That's anarchy.
Yeah.
Freedom, true freedom has boundaries.
Yep.
It has boundaries because outside of those boundaries is lawlessness.
Yeah.
You just able to do, and this is what we see in our communities now. that people think, oh well, I can just do it because nothing's sacred anymore.
Yep.
Right.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
What's there to protect?
Yeah,
Or-
what is there
yeah.
to protect? Because nothing is. Nobody holds anything in high regard. When we can find ourselves killing one another,
Yeah.
just doing all kinds of derogatory things to one another as human beings, what is sacred? So I just committed to myself, me and my wife together. Listen, we're a Christian household. We're going to raise our children and we're going to behave in the manner that God would see fitting. And it was imperative. If that comes to discipline, to get your attention, to let you know, hey, you're acting outside of what we instructed you to do.
Yeah.
Listen, the Bible says beat them and it won't kill them.
Yeah.
I used to tell my kids all the time, and they can tell you to this day. I used to say, listen, you know what they used to do to the kids when they were young and they disobeyed their parents in the Bible? They're like, what? I said, they take them to the outside of the city and stone them to death. And my older daughter was like, please, Dad, don't stone them. Don't stone them. But the value that I hold for family is very important. And we have to hold on to something. I mean, the world is running rampant with
Right.
what they're putting labels on everything. Anything can be a family now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
Is that really what family's supposed to be?
Right.
But the thing is, we have to hold on to that sacredness of what family meant. And sometimes it takes discipline.
Yeah. And we want to put the disclaimer out before anybody try to cancel us. We're not talking about take your kids out and stuff. Okay. We want y'all to understand that.
Put that out there.
Okay. It does say, you spoil the rod, spare the rod, you spoil the child.
Right.
Right. That's what Scripture says. It doesn't say beat your child, but it does say to correct them, because it also says that train up a child in the way that they should go, and it will never leave them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So they may leave your house. They may be like the prodigal son, get your riches and go and squander it all. But at some point in time, they're going to come to themselves, because what you instilled in them will never leave them.
Yep.
So then they'll come back, right? Because that's what the father did for us. Right?
That's what the father did right there.
The Father said, humble yourself before me. Humble yourself before me, so thou may humble thyself.
So having, because you and I have the youngest children out of this, like, how are you instilling this discipline in them even at this age?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because obviously, we are in different stages. And so discipline, you're just kind of figuring this out from year to year. You're figuring out because every child is different. Every household is different. The only thing that we have a basis is, okay, we know we want to start with the Word of God. So as a father, I know that I'm going to, probably, I'm going to be the lead kind of in discipline for the most part. And I'm kind of taking my cues from, like, I'm looking at God, because a father should be parallel with the Father. So the Father, it's just like I was saying when we were talking about love, like, let's look at what he doesn't love. Sometimes he says yes, sometimes he says no, but it's the same thing with discipline. Does the Father discipline? Yeah, he disciplines. So if you ask, should we be disciplining? Yeah, if you're just looking at what God does and how he conducts himself with us, yeah, you should discipline. The funny thing is that you discipline, there's different things that we can use discipline for, right? You can use discipline because you say, man, if I just let him run wild, he's going to get himself killed, right?
Yeah.
So it could be protection.
Yeah.
But discipline can also help you be disciplined, because a person without discipline, it's going to be hard to navigate life.
Yeah.
You got to have discipline in some area.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? And especially if you're walking with Christ, I mean, it's about self-control and discipline in so many different areas. So, it's a must. It's an essential. If I would say, what is the most essential thing in parenting? I mean, obviously I can't say necessarily, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
Discipline is, you would have to discipline, and you could tell if somebody's, lacking that. You know what I mean? You can tell it, and it's funny that you even say that, because, like, I guess I could kind of ask this. I just kind of toss this out there, because there's a boundary between, I guess, disciplining and then kind of dipping into enabling, right? Like, how do you know as a parent if you've crossed this line and you're kind of enabling your child with a lack of discipline in a certain area?
The answer from disciplining my kids over the last, and I still discipline them, even though the oldest is 29. But that form of discipline is different. But if the behavior doesn't change, that's how you know.
Yeah.
That's
You're
how
doing
you know.
something to enable it.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're doing something to enable it. Because if they can continue in that behavior after you said so-called discipline them, then something is wrong.
Yeah.
And so the behavior that they exemplify should change.
That's good.
Or you should see some type
Something.
of movement in that direction
Okay.
that they're
good.
changing. So
That's
yeah,
good. That's
Yeah.
huge.
because you can tell, like you say, you can tell the ones that have not seen
Yep.
discipline
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah. And would it be like because of the ages of ours, right? So would it be something like that you have to give different I don't know, like maybe grace periods depending on what phase they're in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because every child is different.
Yep.
Every child is different, and every child does not respond to the way you may be disciplined. That's why it takes time for you to learn.
Yeah,
that
learning.
child.
Okay.
And that time that you spend with them, you know.
Yeah.
Parents know. They okay, she's not going to see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's gonna start crying.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
gonna immediately, and so you know. But in one of my children, all you had to do was look at her, and that was enough. And then in our community, everybody thinks, "Oh well, you whoop your child with this and that." Yeah, we came up in the generation I did.
Yeah. I
Where
mean,
they use
I'm right now.
exactly
Yes.
where they use whatever they could find
Right.
Yep.
to hit us with,
Yep.
because that's the way we were raised. But there are so many different
everything.
things that we can do to discipline our children. Like the first thing I would do was take cell phones. Oh, I love that. Oh, you can have this for about 2. I mean, that correction came quickly and swift.
That's a lot worse than some
Exactly.
physical
Yep.
something.
Yes, I could. They
Sad to
rather,
say,
some of
but-
them would tell me,
Right.
"Please just whoop me."
Yep.
Right.
Please,
Can
just
I
whoop
just get a
me.
whoop?
Yes, I want my cell phone, or I want my.
Don't let them
gaming,
have a little
you know.
romantic interest or anything, because now that they're getting texts, they can't text them back.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
They
yeah,
losing
discipline is very. Yeah, cell phones make discipline very easy.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, okay, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I've had to do that with my son, and what I realize is that, you know, as a father, not only that you have to have some logic, but you have to have some emotional intelligence
Yeah.
to deal, like you said, with each and every child, like accordingly. You know, you got to really have some emotional intelligence and really have that ear to listen and take that direction and coaching from the Holy Spirit to child
Absolutely.
and raise and discipline this particular child, because there's definitely no one size fit all
Right.
disciplinary or correctional, you know, methods to every child. And because one child may, you know what I'm saying, get that correction. One child may be feeling like they're being abused. Other child is not doing anything at all. And it could be creating emotional. It could be, you know, because you said, "Oh, this is what I do, and this is what we do in this house, and everybody gets the same treatment."
Yeah.
Somebody's definitely gonna suffer in some
Yeah.
type of way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it's gonna be the parent.
Right.
Why,
Did
Steve?
you hate when your parents used to say, "This is gonna hurt me worse than it hurts you"? I'm like, what are you talking?
I never believed that.
Right?
I never believed that.
You're lying to
But
me.
you know what? I actually talked to somebody, a parent, about that, and it's like, well, the thing is, it does hurt them for the simple fact that you didn't listen, and now they have to inflict pain on you. They don't enjoy inflicting
really
the
don't wanna
pain
do
on
that.
you.
Well, you don't want.
But
You
it's
better
like-
hope you don't live in that household. But there's some households that are like that.
Right.
That discipline out of anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I was about
Yeah.
to go there. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you
They
don't
enjoy
want
it.
to. You don't want to
You definitely
discipline
want
your
to
child.
discipline out of anger.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's key. But even
Yeah.
taking the cell phone is pain, right? Inflicting, like for me, I couldn't go outside. And, you know, it's crazy because I'd be like, I'd ask my friend, be like, hey, just come knock on the door. Maybe you can get my parents
Yep.
to be gracious.
Yep.
And you be sitting there like
Yep.
off on
Just
the wall
hoping.
trying to hope. And they'll be like, nah, he's on punishment. It's like, oh my God. You know, throwing tantrums.
Yeah.
But then I thank God for those whoopings. I thank God for that punishment because it has helped me be who I am today and to be able to honor my parents.
It's huge.
Right, because what I'm learning is, like you said, if the actions don't change, you enable it, and then they start becoming disrespectful to the parent.
And
right?
as a father of grown adults, my oldest is 29. We lost one at 24, and then our baby is 23. And when the thing is, you never, as a father, a Christian father, you never want your children to fear you. You want them to respect you and revere you.
Right.
And that if something was to happen, that they feel comfortable coming to you.
Yep.
Right.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That your
Definitely
kids
that.
come back to you because
Yeah.
you do reap what you sow.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Say that for real.
Man, we just had that conversation. That's like one of our episodes. We talked about that. And it's like, I remember having a conversation with someone, and I was like, yo, bro, like, you want them to respect you, not fear you.
Mm-hmm.
Because fear comes with distrust. They're scared of you, but they don't trust you. But when they respect you, they trust you, so that whenever they do get in trouble, they know that there is safety in the arms of who you are as their father.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
So important.
So important.
So
because
important.
that sets the ball rolling for every other relationship.
Yep.
Right? I was actually, again, I spent so much time with my pastor. This Thursday, he was having a talk with, it was about strong sons, strong mothers. And they were talking about how that emotional, what did you just say? Emotional intelligence, right? And maturity can, if you don't have it, it can really hurt a son or a daughter up until they don't even correct it till they're like 40, right? A gentleman shared a beautiful testimony about how much he hated his father, how painful that whole experience. But once he understood, God sent him away to where he can get those things healed, to where then he was able to go and heal that relationship with his father, which then freed his father, right? And so it's so important to discipline your child the right way, because you want them to leave your house one day. And when they leave your house, they carry your name. That's why it's so important for us to instill the right things, because, you know, you don't want to be like that kid a few years ago that got in trouble, right? And his legal defense was affluenza. In other words, his parents didn't teach him right or wrong.
Exactly.
So because they didn't teach him right or wrong, he shouldn't be punished. And it's like, and then what did that do? That enabled him to do something else stupid, and then his family got him out of the country. And it's like, if you don't hold them accountable, right, they become destructive.
Yep.
Right? I see that in my own life and with people around me. It's like, when you don't chastise or you correct your child, then they become entitled. And then with that entitledness, when they believe that they're the parent, they believe that they're the adult, they believe that they could, and it's like, oh no, like I've had to explain, even coming up with this understanding, like me and my wife moved in with my parents, because we had this whole plan of doing something. COVID just smashed it. But one thing that I understood was, when I was in our own household, I was the king of that house. But because just like in a kingdom, you have the king. The moment the prince leaves to go to the kingdom that his dad set out for him, he's the king in that space. But the moment I leave that space and I come home, I'm not the king of the house. I'm the prince. Whatever rules that my father put in place, even as a grown man, I have to submit under that.
Because it's his house.
It's his house.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: when people come to my house, I expect the same submission from my children, from my wife, from even honestly when my dad comes over to the house. It's like, yo, this is the guidelines in which this is how we're running our household. This is the environment we've set. So we want to make sure we keep it intact, because we got to live with it. So you got to understand, you got to respect, and like whenever you're like, that's why me and my dad have such a great relationship. And then this is why it's important to be a kingdom man as a father, because he got saved when I was 5. And because of that decision, I got saved 5 years later. And because of going to the church with him, cleaning the church, and then just seeing his life transform from smoking, drinking, cussing, all that stuff, he gave his life to Christ, and then just see a complete 180. And it's like, oh my God, like this God thing is real. I didn't understand it, but because of him, I am the man that I am today. I am the husband that I am today because of that one decision. So it's so important to make that stance, right? So, you know, Mike, as you being a God-fearing husband, God-fearing father, what do you hope that you've instilled in your children that even now as they're grown, that they'll carry with them? Like, what's that one thing that you hope you've instilled that they should carry each and every place they go?
Well, it's, oh my God, that's such a gamut of things I could say. But if I had to narrow it down, it would have to be, I would tell them all the time, my joy in this life is that you have a relationship with God before I leave.
Mm-hmm.
That's my ultimate goal. If I can close my eyes for the last time and know that you have a relationship with God, that would be like a testament to what me and your mother tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
that's the only answer I've ever given when
Yeah.
someone's asking that. That's the most important thing to me. You know,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Not their money. Like I've even told you, I was like, yo, it's cool. Like it would be cool to leave assets. I'm working on, being able to leave money and assets and stuff, but that does no good if they don't have a Christ relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if they don't have a Christ relationship, everything I've left is cancels out. You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else
So,
after that?
what would you say? So being a father, like, what has been probably one of the most challenging parts, right? So for those that may be going through a challenging, right? So of course the pinnacle is the moment your child accepts Christ and begins to live that transformed life. What's one of the biggest challenge that even in the different spaces that you found of being a father with a teenager, with grown, with young children? What's the challenge that you've all faced and overcome, or is working to overcome as you're growing as a father?
Well, for me, living with my adult children, which is definitely a challenge, because I'm in a household of females and I'm the only male. So I do practically everything. No, I take that back, honey. I hope you're not listening.
Yeah. Texting you right now.
I guess one thing that is the most important thing, one of the most important things, is that they value themselves. And like that they really understand why God created them and gave them to us to be in this world, and that they accomplish whatever they do, because it's not about what you've. To me, success is not about what you've gained; it's about what you've maintained. Because things you can gain and you can lose it just like that, because you have no foundation.
Yeah.
You don't know how to keep it.
Yeah.
You think success, I arrived. But I always wanted them to understand that success is never about that. Success is about what you've maintained over your life, because you're not always going to be here.
Yeah. Wow.
You're going to leave eventually. Everybody has to go that way.
Yeah.
You see, either heaven or hell. But the thing is, what have you done in between?
Yeah.
Your birth and your death.
Yeah.
What have you done in the middle? What have you given to anybody else? What have you done? So that ethic of treating people the way they should be treated, being kind to people. I mean, never. I've never just met anybody that, at least around me, that just was totally mean spirited. You could just everything makes them mad.
Yeah.
And I've never, and that's one thing I love about my family, is that I don't know people like that, like in close proximity to me, that just don't care. They just don't have any kind of scruples. They don't. So it was always an effort of my wife and I to make sure that our children were kind and nice people, just generally nice people.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
It was about the challenges.
Yeah.
Well, right now in this stage, the challenge is observing them and continuing to learn them, but figuring out how to discipline, how to love, because everybody receives, even at the young age, you can start to see that. Like, I read the Love Languages book, and I remember when I was initially reading it, the first 80% of the book was about what you thought it was going to be about. But then it started talking about kids. I was like, man, I never thought about this book from that standpoint. And I was like, Oh yeah, I guess they would all have love languages, which means that you would have to figure out that and kind of love them in the way that they would need to be loved. So that alone, figuring out the discipline and the love, is a challenge. Just trying to figure that out because you can't really take, even though like our children are young, we can't take anything for granted because everything adds up into who they're going to become. And I would say that these years are particularly critical.
They
You know what
are.
I'm saying?
They
You know what I'm
are.
saying? So it's like thinking about that, like, yo, man, I could have a jerk on my hands at 7 or a sweet child.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not to say that I walk around with pressure, but I walk around with the understanding that me and my wife need to be intentional, need to be present, need to be intentional, and we have to be very observant with them and treat them individually and uniquely as God created them. So that's the challenge, figuring out their own unique quirks and everything.
Yeah.
Now, like, so you ask, like, what's one of the greatest challenge, like, just as being a father, pretty much?
Being a father, space
Hmm.
from where you are.
For me, at least right now, it is, like, even sometimes, like, it's like, am I doing good enough as a father? You know what I'm saying? Just giving myself that credit, because, of course, as men, we don't always
Society.
get, like,
A pass.
you know what I'm saying? You don't really get that. It's just like, you're a man, you're a father, you just do it.
Yeah.
Whether you get something or not or whatever. But and then thinking about that, right? That's one thing that I think is like beautiful about like having a child, or in my case a son, is that it brings me back to my relationship with my father, things that he went through that maybe I may be experiencing now. So so even for me, I'm like, he probably battled with the same things. Like, man, like, I don't even know if I'm, you know, I don't know if I'm really like, do they approve of me? Do they this? Do they, am I, enough per se, whatnot. But, and what that did for me is kind of made me go and give appreciation to my father, just to give that to him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To
Yeah.
give that back to him, and what that did, and is still doing for me is kind of helping me to see my own value and to know that I'm doing the best that I can at the moment, and that things do change from day to day, season to season. And as long as my heart is in the right place, as far as like how I, you know, you know, go about father and whatnot, you know, everything will be okay. You know what I'm saying? So, and I guess what I would say probably another somewhat of a challenge is for me, because I co-parent, and it's the co-parenting. You know what I'm saying? Because his mother thinks one way, I think one way. Even if we have a discussion, she's still her and I'm me. But at the end of the day, the fact that he's more so on like the adult part, it's not as much of a challenge as it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Because he didn't form his own opinion. And now he's informed his own opinion.
hey, you ain't like
It's like I hear both of my parents, but I
Yeah.
got my own opinion about the subject.
Yeah. I say for myself, honestly, it's me, right? My greatest challenge is me now, because what I've understood is your children bring out the best part of you and equally the worst part of you. And now, so my wife has brought some of the worst part of me that I've had to deal with, and now having a child brings out that other part of me that I thought I could handle, right? That I thought I suppressed or that I overcame. And it's like, I was like, nah, bro, there's this little piece of your life that you haven't given to me yet. And so now through her, it's been revealed. And so now it's like, okay, Lord, I have to work through it, right? I can't parent her like my parents parent me. I can't have you know, a short fuse, right? And it's like, you know, even being an older parent, right? Not being in my 20s, right? I wish I could have been in my 20s having a child, but, you know, being a little older and the patience not necessarily being there and having to learn that part of being like, yo, like she doesn't understand, help her understand. And then even knowing that there's a level in which she does understand and helping my wife, like, yo, like she knows more than what we think she knows, right? Because, you know, kids are good at playing each parent, right? They know, like, all right, mommy is the run over, so I can run over her, so I'm going to avoid daddy, right? And not understanding that we have to show a united front. So I have to develop every part of me so that now I can become the best father for her. One of the best things that one of my uncles said to me, he was like, yo, just take the pressure off of yourself of being perfect. Just love her. She's growing as a child. She's growing in the relationship between her and you, and you're growing in the relationship with you and her. So just allow yourself to grow. Don't try to be perfect. Just love her. That's all you have to do is love her. So overcoming that challenge is a beautiful thing. And I thank God that I have men in my life like you guys to be able to have these conversations, especially like, you know, like having girls and all girls, right? And as we talk about possibly having another one, I'm praying like, Lord, give me a boy, because if it's a girl, we done. Done. Because it's just, you know, my wife was like, yeah, what you going to do if you have a son? I was like, I'm going to beat him up. She's like, you're not going to. I was like, well, no, it's just the father-son thing. It's like that whole, you know, toughen them up. And it's just, you know, you can't do things. Like, but my baby girl is tough as nails. She'd be like, yeah, I see, because you were. It's like, yeah, because there's going to be some little boy that might try to push her around, and she got to be able to defend herself. And if that means punch him in the eye, punch him in the eye. Right? But at the same time, you don't have a right to put hands on somebody. So, like, you don't put hands. You know what I'm saying?
Look, you're going to be giving that disclaimer in about 2 minutes.
Right.
It's just a joke.
Right. Protect yourself at all times. What they say in the boxing ring, in a sanctioned fight. So, hey. But yeah, so it's you know, it's been a joy becoming a father. Right? One of our last podcast episodes in season 1 was fatherhood. It was full of anxiousness, right? It was full, but now her being here, and I have a picture in my office of when she was first born and holding her in my hands, and her looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and just being like, oh my God, like this beautiful, precious gift that you've given me, right? And it's just, fatherhood's so beautiful. So like, if you're a man and you're listening to this and you've been absent from your kid's life, just go ahead and make that change, make that 180, and go be in their life, because they need you. And honestly, you need them.
No matter how much time.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
No matter how much time. Like, you need them as much as they need you, right? Because they're going to make you a better person.
Yeah.
Right? And with them, you becoming a better person, you help them become a better person, so that your legacy, because whether you're in their life or not, they're still your legacy.
And in their minds, as an adult now, in their minds, they still have a dad. They just haven't seen him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you need to make your note, and you need to be present.
Yep.
No
matter what. Yep. No matter what the mother does, no matter how
Yep.
much you can't stand her, how vindictive she may be, do everything you can to be in their life. Take the pivot. If you're been in their life and you've been dealing with the headache, keep going forward, right? Keep going forward, because again, they need you. It's not a want in their life. It's a need in their life. So we want to encourage you. Like, being a father is dope, right? Being a father is hard at times. You have the hills and the valleys. They're going to excite you, right? They're going to do things that you're excited about. They'll please you, but at the same time, they will disappoint you, right? They're going to do something, but you got to understand, all that comes, you just love them through it. As we all said, it's you know, you got to discipline them. You got to love them. One of the craziest things that's out here is this whole love, like God is love, right? And they don't look at it as love comes with accountability. God's love comes with accountability. So yes, he loves you, and he is the essence of love, but at the same time, there is a standard in which he called us to. Right. And Jesus lived up to that standard. We're not going to be perfect. That's where his grace fills in. But we have to be led by the Holy Spirit so that we can get as close to him as we can in our finiteness, right? He's infinite, we're finite. And understanding that those things are important to being a father, right? And that's why, again, because how you father your children will determine the spouse they have and how they raise their children.
Yep.
You know, can I say one? I guess with this is for fathers that are probably not present in their children's lives as much as they should be. You know, we can get our brands down. We can put all this energy and effort into making sure that we're making money. We can make sure that we're, you know, we're physically fit. We can go to the gym 24/7. We can go to school and get the highest education that we can get, but we can't take out time to spend with the most important and most rewarding challenge that you can ever have in your life, and that's your children.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your legacy. That's who you leave here.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Just to talk about you or to say good things about you. And I just couldn't imagine having a child on this earth that I didn't have a relationship with. And God is so perfect and so gracious and great that he knew that one individual would be the one thing that would make you love somebody more than you love yourself.
Wow.
Yep.
When you look at your children, you like,
Yep.
it's just, when I first saw my children, when they were born, it was just like something just overcame.
Right.
It was no words when I
Yeah,
saw that. And when I saw that baby, it's just like, there's nothing I wouldn't do for them.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So God knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
He
Yeah.
knew exactly what he was doing. So be present, please. Be
Yeah.
present in your kids' lives.
Yeah, we've kind of I think touched on it at some point before. Not in this conversation, but you know, and this is probably another podcast to tell you the truth. But just the idea of, you know, how God talks about children. You know what I mean in the Bible, and especially when you're reading the Old Testament, you're just hearing over and over again a blessing from the Lord. You know, and just you're hearing that word blessing attached. You know, like all the time. And just because of culture is it's counter to God. It's in opposition. The world is in opposition to him. But we live, he tells us not to be of the world, but we're still in the world, so we hear the stuff from the world all the time. And yeah, I do think we allow these things to kind of get into our heads and our spirits. And you know, because my reaction initially coming into fatherhood wasn't great at all either. But again, it was more. It wasn't a child per se. It was more of the fear. It was those type of feelings that come along with it. But you know that the I wonder what that is that it just allows us to kind of forget like all the things that God has said. Like it says a lot of great things about children and the blessings of them, but we have kind of the opposite reaction sometimes that we probably should have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think again that's because we've allowed a lot of the fears of the world, the pressures of the world, you know, because with me, I think it was predicated on, like, I don't know what manhood is, but the clock just started. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I got to figure it out now. Like, I'm really stepping into this, and, you know, I have to make sure, like, you know, everything's together. And I think just the combination of feeling all that, it takes away from the miracle of, I mean, it's just insane, like, what a child actually is, and that God actually entrusts us with it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about something to have stewardship over. I mean,
A whole life.
a life.
Yeah.
Because I used to, I said, babe, these kids are gonna be cute for a second, but these are not children. These are human beings. we just gave birth to some human beings that are gonna be there. You, Hey Dad, can you give me advice on this? Hey Dad, can you do this? Hey Mom, can you do this?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna really be here, like going through stuff in the world, and we're gonna have to be there, and it's not gonna stop. You know, when they leave the house, like it's gonna continue. You know what I mean? So
Your name is changed forever.
it is. You know what I mean? And it's like the weight of that is huge.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a blessing, and I think I you know in talking about spouses, you know, it says he who finds a good wife finds favor from the Lord. I believe, you know, that's why the word blessings is always attached to children. And these are great things. And when you're trying to follow, even if you start off the wrong way, when you make the decision that I'm going to try to raise these children as you have instructed me, God, I'm going to try to treat my wife how you have instructed me, then I believe favor will follow. You know what I mean? If we know that we need to spend time with them, and you know there's a job that you've just been offered, it offers a lot of money, but you're looking at the hours and you're like, man, this is not going to, you know, it's in those moments where you ask for God's direction, and maybe He says, oh, I got something else for you, don't take that. But God, this is $200,000 a year, I can't pass this up. Okay. He's always going to give you he's going to let you do what you do. But at the end of the day, I believe if we trust Him, the favor will follow. The blessings of the word blessings that's attached to children in the Bible, you're going to feel that. As long as we're trying to go about it again the way He's telling us to do.
Yeah.
Trust in that process.
Yeah.
These signs shall follow them that believe. I mean, you can have 10 rainy days, but one sunny day, that's what you're talking about. It was so nice out the other day. You forget about the 10 days that rain.
That's right.
It rained.
Yep.
And with me, that's the way kids are. And when I had my first, it was like, it was the best days. And it's still the best days because you never stop being a parent. Never. Mm-hmm. Even when you lose a child, as me and my family did, you never stop being a parent. You always a parent. You still talk about that individual. You still, you know, it's that relationship that was built over time. So parenting is it's a God-given thing. It's a God-given thing because can you even think of, or just imagine two individuals get together, have sexual intercourse, God create a baby, and then you got another person on the planet.
It's crazy.
Only
You
God
really
can
it
do
doesn't
that.
make sense.
Only God can do that. And then the individual come out looking like you.
Yeah.
Really?
With your personality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With your
So it's
tendencies.
Likenesses.
It makes, if you didn't believe, you ought to believe because who else could do that?
Who else?
And the level of love that God has for you to look at you and give you that responsibility. I mean, you're like, yo, like, do you know who I am? Do you know the things I've struggled with? Like, why would you give me the most important responsibility to steward? And he's just probably laughing the whole time.
It's like, I trust you.
You good, man.
And you know what's funny? Like, I had a T-shirt made to wear when she came home that said, I don't know what God was thinking of making me somebody's father. Right? Because it's like, God, I don't know what you were thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But obviously you thought highly of us.
Yeah.
To give us someone to steward. Is there any last words you would like to say?
I was gonna say that, like that feeling that you was just talking about, like when you had that, you know, your first or any child really. It's like, imagine how our Heavenly Father feels.
Yep.
Looking at Himself in us, and when He doesn't see Himself in us, you know what I'm saying? Just like all of that, and just, you know what I'm saying? Yes. What we feel when we going through and observing this human being, just becoming and evolving and whatnot, like looking at them, like imagine how He.
That's deep.
Yeah, because when I felt that when he was explaining that, because I know when I had my son, or when he came with Christ. Before he came, my son, I was just lost. I didn't know what to do with my life. I was really young, 18, 19, just hustling, very unhealthy, toxic relationships, this, that, and the other. It was all life was all out of order. No purpose, none of that. Not before he actually was born, but just in his mother's womb, he was working on me. Like he was working on me at that point. Certain desires that I had was just falling off, and I was like, "What's going on?"
Crazy.
Just wanting to do certain things. Everything is like everything is like a switch, literally just like a switch. And because I didn't think I was prepared, but when he came, I was ready. I was equipped.
Yeah.
Listen,
You know.
even in his mother's womb, God was preparing you for that child because
You
He
see?
knew you had to be prepared.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
He knew, and that's why godly relationship with God is so important. It's wonderful if we find Him in our youth, because we've walked with Him a number of years.
Yeah.
But when you find Him, you find Him.
Right.
And He changes your whole life like that. And it may take a child coming into the world
Yep.
that'll get you lined up
Yeah.
to where you know, I love this person more than I love anybody. And that's what God wants us to do. Love Him and love somebody more than you love yourself.
Yeah.
Man.
We got to get out of the way. And a lot of times that's what our kids do for us. They help push us out the way and see what the real purpose is. This new life.
Yeah.
It's a new life.
Man,
Purpose. Yeah. That's it.
Bro, that's heavy, dude.
That's amazing.
That's heavy. Yeah.
That's good.
Man.
That's, man.
When he,
And it, go
when he
ahead.
said that, it made me think of like God. You know, He talks about shaping us in the womb, and I was like, man, while He was simultaneously shaping the child in the womb, He's still shaping and molding us. So He's shaping and molding him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, so it's like
Yeah.
He's like working on him almost as if he's in a womb while his child is being
Literally.
shaped in the womb.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying?
Literally.
It's crazy.
And I
Yeah.
mean literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean in every sense too. It was just like that.
I definitely kind of relate to a little bit of that because me and my wife as well. I mean, there was definitely like some shaping happening, like with the marriage, but with our first child as well. You know what I'm saying? Because you do have at least crazy fears, but then you're just like, wow, you know, like I do feel equipped somehow.
Right, somehow.
somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. That's so rich. That's why it's important for us to have having that connection with God, because of the simple fact that we are God's example in the earth. So once we have that connection with Him, it allows us to love our children, right? I think the reason why a lot of people can't love their children, or even why fathers can't even put up the fight to deal with maybe the woman, or they just don't want to be a father at all, is because they don't understand the love of God or the love that God has for them. And when you understand the love that God has for you, it helps you even better love the child that He gave you stewardship from.
Easy.
And the sacredness of
It's
that
sacred.
love.
Yes.
It's sacred.
Through and through, like he was saying.
Sacred.
Yeah.
It's like we talked about. Marriage is
Mhm.
sacred, sex is
Yeah.
sacred, and children are sacred.
Yeah.
If you understand that, that's what helps establish and gives a strong marriage.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys took some nuggets. Man, like if we
Man.
could, we would go
Yeah.
even longer, but
For
you know,
real.
we just thank God for this time together. So if you have any questions, if this touched you, please let us know. Please comment. Please share this. Let us know how this impacted your life. Someone sent me a message on one of our other ones, and what the couple did really blessed us. So for us, like hearing that blesses us, because it gives us understanding and confirmation that we are walking in our God-given purpose. So you know where to find us. Instagram, Raw on Purpose _. Same with Twitter and TikTok. You can find us on Facebook at Raw on Purpose. YouTube, Raw on Purpose Podcast. Subscribe. Hit the notification so you know when we're coming on air. And then we're streaming on all streaming platforms at Raw on Purpose Podcast. So, brothers, I thank you guys for
Yes.
giving us the time.
Yeah.
Mike, Wes,
Thank you, brother.
great conversation. We love you guys. And so until next time, it's your boy Zay.
And it's your boy Rashad.
And this is the Raw on Purpose Podcast.
Keep tapping in.
Tapping, tapping. Tap into your purpose. Tapping, tapping. They act as if we see, no hear, no speak, no evil. They act as if we see, no hear, no speak, no evil. We tapping into purpose. Raw purpose. Raw purpose. We tapping